How do you keep your running progress going in the 90-degree heat? Today on the Do Hard Things Today podcast. Hal Morris, it is hot, H-O-T out there.
It is.
I did a 5K yesterday, and it was the hottest and most miserable race I've ever done. It was 90 degrees, 90% humidity, just sweltering. And, man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think we've been kind of lulled into sleep because it didn't get hot as soon as it usually does. We're in the South. I don't know where you're listening from, but in the South, it didn't get quite as hot as early as it did before. So we've had a lot of questions, a lot of feedback on what do you do? How can you continue to run and not just completely go in the tank? So we're going to discuss that today on the podcast. But before we do, just to remind you to go all the places you can find us. Where are all those places, Hal?
Oh, just about all the outlets, Spotify, iTunes, of course, Google Play, iHeartRadio.
Yep, nice.
Alexa.
Yeah.
Just ask Alexa to play the podcast, and she will. So we're out there.
Yeah, you can go over and join one of our Facebook groups. We've got a nutrition kind of fitness overall group called the Do Hard Things Today, Nutrition, Performance, Fitness. Just ask to join that. It's free. We don't sell anything. And then the other group is the Hub City Upstate Running Group. If you're specifically interested in running, join that group. You don't have to be local. We do some local runs and things there, but we also have a lot of great support, a lot of race discussions, that kind of thing on that page. So we would just encourage you to go over there. So the heat, man, we're gonna talk about that, and this will be a shorter than normal podcast, but it'll be longer than a 5 for Friday normally is. But we wanted to cover and really give you 10 good tips for how do you not only go out and allow yourself to run safely. That's the most important thing. But how can you also perform whenever it's hot outside? So we're going to discuss those things. Hal, I believe you were riding today. Did you hit the heat? Was it
rode early?
I
I started about 8 and rode a couple hours. It did get warm.
Yeah.
Close to the end of the ride, and just saw some people starting out when I was finishing, and I was like, guys, y'all probably should have come a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to talk about is there are drastic swings, and I mean you'll have a 20-degree swing from early morning up until when you get up into the day how hot it gets. So that's one of the things we're going to discuss a little bit later. But we wanted to give you these things in just a list format. And the first thing that I think you need to do, and especially because what happens, and this is what I think has happened around here. We're in the upstate of South Carolina, halfway between Charlotte and Atlanta, and it is a hot place. I mean, we're hot. We're as hot as anywhere in the country. And what usually happens is what's happening right now. There comes that point in time where the real heat gets here, where it's like, okay, it's hot. And it's going to be hot every day for a while.
And you add the humidity.
Yeah, and the humidity. The humidity is a killer. And for some of you that listen that are out further west, you don't deal with that sweltering humidity, which I think is worse than the heat itself. But when these things come, okay, what's been happening is we've had milder than normal up to this point, and so your body is used to that kind of environment. It's used to running when it's a little bit cooler. Not quite as sweltering hot as it is now. So that wall happens, and one of the people that commented on our Facebook group said, "Well, how do I just feel like I feel like I'm just completely zapped from energy. I don't have any energy when I run. I'm losing my fitness, and that you aren't losing your fitness. What I would encourage you to do, number one, is slow down. Okay, you're gonna have to slow down and acclimate yourself to this heat. It's a game changer. I mean, when you're out in the heat, it's just a game changer. It makes things harder. Yesterday, like I said, we we ran a little local 5K that we were actually able to some of you are going to be jealous because every race you've had, and trust me, I've had plenty of races canceled, but that was the first race I've run in. Gosh, I don't even remember the last race I did. It may have been Disney.
Disney,
Yeah, that may have been the last race I did in January. But we were running that race, and my goodness, I told you how I was 2 miles in, and we had like a mile hill climb to the finish, and I felt like I felt like I had concrete in my shoes.
Yeah.
I was wringing wet, just soaking wet, just blazing hot, and you just got to slow down to start with. And when you take it slower, and again, you may want to incorporate some more walk breaks or just slow down your pace. That you will become acclimated to it, and your pace will come back. You haven't lost your fitness. This is just a heat training. In fact, one of the members of one of our groups, Wayne Sigler, who's been on the podcast before, talking about functional training and obstacle course racing, he posted I think it was from Outside Online, maybe. It was a technical article about physiologically what happens to your body when you're training in heat. And there's some research out that says training in heat has some of the similar effects of training in altitude. Yeah. And if you know anything about altitude training, some of the most elite runners in the world have trained at altitude. They've gone to places at altitude to train. So your body will acclimate to it, and it will actually make you more physically fit if you do it safely. Second thing is hydrate. Okay, that sounds like a no-brainer, but when people hydrate, how do you? Let's say they got a race or they got a long ride coming up, and they're going to hydrate, and that ride or that race is on Saturday morning. How do people normally hydrate when they say they're going to really hydrate for the race?
Well, I think the ideal situation is start hydrating several days beforehand to get hydrated.
Yeah.
And if you wait to the day before or the day of, I think it's too late.
Yeah, that's my point. That ideally is exactly what you just said. Is that you want to keep, when it's hot like it is right now, you need to keep yourself in a constant state of hydration. I am sitting here on the table with I'm reading what it is. It's a 50 ounce. Yeah, it's 50 ounces. It's a Deer Park water bottle that I've got that I just keep with me. And I try to keep myself in a constant state of being hydrated. You can't catch up when it's like this, because even like right now, just getting out of the truck and walking in, you almost get a little sweat going just because just being out in it for a minute. I mean, it's hot, but you want to hydrate up to whatever the event that is you're doing. And then that's when you add in basically the water and electrolytes you take in during your run. Those are just replacing what you're burning off in your run.
During the run, right.
Yeah, so you want to be in a constant state of hydration. I think a good rule of thumb is half an ounce of water per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, if you weigh 150 ounces, you got another problem. But if you weigh 150 pounds, 75 ounces of water throughout the day, and you can add lemon to that. I'm not one of these that's, hey, if you put any kind of artificial sweetener in it. I mean, you want to stay away from artificial sweeteners the most you can, but main thing is just getting that water in. But number 3 is don't just hydrate. All right. So we just told you how important it is to hydrate. And I'll tell you this, if you want your performance to go down, be dehydrated. You can research what even a 10% dehydration will do to you. If you get just a little dehydrated, your performance starts going in the tank, and the more dehydrated you get, your performance just plummets. So that's crucial. But don't just hydrate. What do we mean when we say don't just hydrate? Just told you I got this big old thing of water over here. So what happens if I just drink water all, and that's the only thing I put in my body?
You're not going to have any fuel.
Yeah, well, you're not going to have any fuel, but the main thing is when you're out, like yesterday, when I got done running, and then when I got in the car, I was soaking wet, got in the car, and by the time we got to the gas station we were going to, started to dry off a little bit. And what do you think I had all over me? White.
Yeah.
Salt.
Salt.
Yeah, salt. So if the only thing you take in is water, well, then you're not going to replace the electrolytes and minerals that you need, and especially your sodium, your potassium, your magnesium. Those things are things that you have got to add back into your body. Tailwind, that's one that a lot of people around here use. You can actually, we're in the Hub City Runner Studios. You can buy that here at this store if you're local. Base salt, those kind of things, which is that it's just a salt that has the minerals in it.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can get it in a little vial, and I'll take that and just take a little scoop of it. It's a tiny little scoop. Take a little scoop of it and just chase it with some water and go at it. But you've got to replace those electrolytes and minerals. If all you're drinking is water, sometimes you can even you will deplenish and deplete your minerals and electrolytes even more if you do that. So you definitely want to take in those electrolytes, those minerals, that kind of thing. Just be careful. Sometimes when people take up running, one of the reasons they do that is to lose weight. And if you're out there in this just brutal heat, running a lot, doing a lot of things, make sure you're fueling properly and you're taking in, especially around that time. You can go back one of our podcasts when we talk about fueling for performance. In that 30 minutes before you're working out, when you're working out, in that 30-minute window after when you're running, that's the time your body really needs that nourishment. Next thing, how you hit on this a second ago, number 4, run early or late. You guys were out biking this morning, and gosh, what a difference. I mean, what do you think the temperature difference was from when you guys started to when you ended?
Oh, I'm sure 10 to 15 degrees.
Yeah.
Easy.
I mean, yesterday's race started at 10 o'clock, and the race director, and he listens to this podcast, and it was a great race. But he said after the race that they were going to move it to a night race next year. But, man, starting at 10 o'clock instead of starting at like 7 or 8 o'clock, holy moly. I mean, it was a huge difference. And I'm bad to – I'll run at all kind of weird times. I may have a appointment cancellation or something. You might find me running at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And, man, it is so – I did a run scheduled. It was a 5-mile run this week, and I think I got out there at like 2 o'clock, and brother, it was hot and humid.
Yeah.
And I got 3 miles in, and I had to cut it off and just walk for 2 miles and I was kind of running out, so I had to, wasn't like I was running a loop, so I had to get the miles in and something, but I was so hot. I mean, and you can kind of tell when you can tell when you're running when you need to just throw in the towel on that run, especially when you're dealing with the heat and getting acclimated to it. And I know that, okay, I just haven't spent enough time out running in it to be acclimated to it yet. So get out early if you can, or run late. And just be careful. Use caution. I mean, if you're running when it's dark, make sure people can see you. Use some reflective clothing, that kind of thing. Just be careful of your surroundings, but that makes a big difference. Pairing right along with that is number 5, hit the trails. That black pavement, when you run on it, and especially if there's no shade, it just radiates. I mean, it's like you're running in an oven, out on the just the regular running things. And there's a lot of trails you can find depending on where you live, but the more shade you can find, just the better it is, just to give you that little reprieve from just the blazing heat. The next one, number 6, is one that people worry about a lot, and they start to notice this when the heat comes. Your heart rate. Your heart rate's going to rise. So if you've been running and it's all of a sudden it's 15 degrees hotter than it has averaged, and you're out running, well, your heart rate's going to be higher at the same pace. And people see that, and what do they naturally think? They naturally think, well, my fitness is going away. Well, no, your fitness ain't going away, but just the heat will raise your heart rate. It's a physiological thing. The hotter it is, the higher your heart rate's going to be when you're out running. So your heart rate will rise. That will somewhat regulate whenever you get acclimated to to running. But anytime you're running into heat, it's going to be your heart rate's going to be higher. That's why, whenever you're in a race and they have like a heat advisory,
Mm-hmm.
what do they all when they give the heat advisory? They always come out and say this is not the time to be going for a PR because your body just physically is just not going to be able to do it. So it's normal for your heart rate to go up. But on that flip side, number 7, your body will adapt. So just be patient. Just slow down. Do all these things we talked about. Make sure you're hydrated, and then your body will adapt to the heat, and then you will be able to perform better in the heat. Number 8, add fruits and vegetables. Why would we add plenty of fruits and vegetables into your diet whenever it's super hot?
I think for the fuel and the sugars from the fruits, and then like you said, the electrolytes like potassium from bananas.
Yep,
I eat a lot of bananas.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's hot.
It's like the perfect food whenever you're dealing with the heat. You've got a lot of minerals, a lot of those things that Hal just mentioned are naturally inside of these things, but they're also slam full of water. So most fruits and vegetables are high percentage water. And so when you're eating those, like if you're eating a strawberry, you're not only getting the nutrition from the strawberry, but you're actually hydrating yourself as well. I'll tell you something that this is kind of a kid trick. They like this, but it's really good after a hot run. If you'll take grapes, just throw them in the freezer, and then when you get you can do it one of two ways. You can put them in a cooler, or you can just pull them out of the freezer, let them sit out for like 5 minutes, and eat them. They are so good, especially when it's blazing hot and you're eating that cold treat. But they're really, really good. Fruits and vegetables they've got a lot of nutrition, a lot of these minerals that you're depleting out of your body, and a lot of water and content inside of them.
Yep, love some good cold watermelon after.
Yep. Watermelon. Yeah, watermelon's got, and this watermelon is slam packed with those two things. Well, it's called watermelon, so water, but a lot of really good nutrition in it. Number 9, I'm gonna let you do this one because you got a little experience with it in the last 2 days.
Oh yeah, I have. I did a long run. We're recording on Sunday, and I did a long run on Friday, and it was hot, and I was completely soaked, and I forgot to take my salty britches. Yep. Sorry, Miss Amy. Yep. Before the run, and I suffered. It was terrible. I could barely get out of my vehicle when I got back home. So able to walk. So
number 9, if you don't know what salty britches is, number 9 is lube up.
Lube up.
And what salty britches is, it is a type of lube that and look, there's no shame in running. Basically, anything that rubs together and if you get hot and then that friction starts, that's where trouble starts. And so what you want to do is you want to lube those spots up, and you're getting into all the private areas and everything else. Lube them up, because when it's hot outside, you're going to have friction. You're going to be rubbing in the wrong places. And then what happens then is that it's not only about that day and the discomfort. Then you're going to be uncomfortable for several days.
Yes.
And that'll hurt the rest of your runs. Number 10, clothing matters. And when it is hot, you want to stay away from just straight up cotton material. Cotton material it gets drenched, and then it just stays drenched. It's got no wicking properties of it. It's heavier. It rubs. Just be careful with the type of clothing that you wear. You want to get the good, just the good material. You want to get that dry wicking things. If you're local, the Hub City Runner Shop, they got plenty of it here. And in fact, we got some of the new Do Hard Things Today and Hub City Runners merchandise. Actually got that printing. Should have some of that in the store by the time you hear this. So just pay special attention to the kind of clothing that you're wearing. And guys, just remember that when it gets hot like this, it just takes your body time to adapt to it. If you'll follow these 10 tips and do these things, I believe that you'll find that your experience won't be quite as bad. Now, when it's hot like this, anytime you go out for a run and it's blazing hot like this, it's just going to be harder. And that's just part of it. But, get out there, like we say, hey, do the hard things, do the hard things. And so don't give up on yourself. Just slow down and your body will adapt. And then you'll be, when the weather cools down and we get into the fall, and hopefully we'll be able to have some more races, you'll be stronger for it. So that's our 10, a little bit longer than our usual 5 for Fridays. This is a 10 for Friday, we'll call it, but we just felt like we needed to get that out there because we're getting so many questions about it. So for Hal Morris, this is Kevin Harrison, just reminding you, if you'll do the hard things today, tomorrow will take care of itself.